The Arroyo Channel is like a giant living room. When you're here, you're family. You're free to say what's on your mind, and everybody else in the room is free to agree or disagree. On this edition of Arroyo Profiles, we're going to spend some time with a couple of our family members, so get comfortable, kick off your shoes, and bienvenidos a la casa. Our first guest is probably familiar to anyone who has been involved in the community. She's making history here in Pasadena while documenting part of Pasadena's history. She is the producer and host of Casa Martinez, Roberta H. Martinez. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sherelle. It's good to be here.
Let's start just by finding out a little bit more about you. Not everybody knows who you are.
Sure.
I don't know who doesn't know who you are.
Lots of people.
There's
lots and lots and lots.
We'll start with when you got to Pasadena. So let's start there, and then we'll quickly move forward from there.
Well, we got to Pasadena because we were looking for a place that was close to my parents who lived in East LA where I grew up. And we wanted to find a place where our kids could go to school and where my parents could come and live with us. And so for the first couple of years while we were in Pasadena, I actually was teaching at St. Mark's up in Altadena. And so I didn't know much about what was going on in Pasadena.
You're certainly involved with it now.
Yeah.
And just a little bit more background on you. You have a passion for music, clearly. You have a BA in music and a master's in music history.
In music history, yeah.
And you just talked about your teaching. You've got, at the time you had a certification teaching credential, so you taught at, you said it was St. Elizabeth?
St. Mark's up in
St. Mark's,
Altadena.
yeah, the
and
one
it was a
on Altadena Drive.
It was a certificate,
okay.
which is very, very different.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a certificate. And since you've been in Pasadena, you've gotten really, really involved. You are the founder of the Latino Heritage Parade and Jamaica in Pasadena. You created the Latino History Foundation, and I mentioned that you are, I was going to say an unofficial historian for Pasadena, but having a book makes it pretty official. So you are one of the official historians, Images of America, Latinos in Pasadena. I just want to talk really quickly about that because obviously it's a part of your heritage, but it's also a part of the American story and Pasadena's story specifically. So why?
How, why, all that stuff. So one of the things that kind of happened in doing the parade in Jamaica was we had different eras and epochs that we would focus on. So 1840 to 1860, things like that. And we felt, I personally felt, and I was one of the founders, felt that it was really important that we have not only sort of how Latinos were a part of American history, about the greater history here, but also specifically what was happening with Latinos and interactions they were having with other groups in Pasadena. So we would look and find pictures of folks that had been living here in Pasadena, which hadn't been seen otherwise. And over the years, I eventually ended up with a book's worth of photos and stories to go that first acknowledge the first peoples that were here, grow through Spanish, and I think we ended about 2000. Yeah.
And that event it's well into 10 years that you've been doing that event, isn't it?
We're 19.
19? Okay, that's a little bit more than 10 years. 19, wow.
And the city has now taken it on.
Yeah.
So
it's become a part of Pasadena's heritage, Pasadena's history.
Yes,
which
yes.
It clearly is.
Yeah.
I want to tie that into your show because you've used your show as another avenue to do what you do, staying active in the community. And we are actually going to take a quick look at some clips from Roberta's show. So let's take a look at that right now. And when we come back, we'll finish talking to you about your show.
Hi, my name is Roberta Martinez, and this is Casa Martinez. So get comfortable, kick off your shoes, and welcome back to the house. Okay, tell me a little bit of the historical background, or tell me a little bit how this came to be, Angel Baby.
I wrote it when I was 14, and my mother bought me a piano, and I put it to music. I formed a band, and I recorded it at 15.
Wow.
In an airplane hangar.
Yeah, it was. It was a converted airplane hangar. The man had retired from doing airplane mechanics, and he decided that he was going to pursue the dream that he always wanted to do, which was make a recording studio.
Take all those ingredients that we bought there, they get to keep some of them for a home, but we get other donations from the organic growers and things that they're there, and they make a salad at a local restaurant, which donates a space, and usually we'll cook off some chicken or something that we can throw on the kids' plates. But the kids will put gloves on, they know about sanitation, and they know where the food came from. They know it came from Farmer John. He makes the best, he gets the best strawberries, and this other farmer over here does the chickens, and you know, they find out where you can buy stuff from your local community.
And pushing it forward is important in all aspects, policy and in our community in general. I mean, when people say to me, well, can you believe these demonstrations against the war? And I say, yeah, we should have more of them, not just against the war, but you know, whether you're for or against the war. I mean, our democracy is based on just that, on dissent. You know, that we should have we have the freedom to be dissenters. We have the freedom to form our own opinions, and I think that as elected officials, we should keep that in mind, and that should be at the forefront of our thinking every time we sit in the chair to make decisions, that we don't have to go along, that we have our independent vote and we have our opinion, and we have a responsibility to the people that we represent to make sure that we keep that independence and we keep that voice.
So what is Puente?
So Puente is a program through the University of California Office of the President, and it's an outreach program that really looks at Latina and Latino culture and history and just kind of society, I guess, if you will, as being strengths that can move students towards higher education. So it's in the community colleges, and it's also in the high schools in certain districts throughout Pasadena.
It is actually Pasadena.
Yes, it's throughout Pasadena now as well. And it's just a really great program that takes in cohorts of 30 students at each grade level and works with them to really encourage them to pursue higher education and understand that Latina and Latino culture is not an impediment to educational achievement, but it's actually like a big strength that they can use to catapult them forward.
You may have noticed that some of those shows go back quite a ways. You've been producing shows here for over 20 years, I guess now, but there was some time where you were off.
I was off for a while, and it's 19 years. 19
years, so we're pushing that 20-year mark.
We're getting close to 20.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And you have been through 4 different studios, probably just as many executive directors, and it's changed quite a bit since when you first came here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what is it, first, how did you learn about Access in general and this facility and specifically?
I was ironing in my living room. I had the TV on, and while I was busy, they were looking for producers. And so I followed up and thought, you know what, I've been a teacher, I know how to organize things, let me go check this out. And so the wonderful thing that happened was that I went to the training, met some wonderful teachers that were there.
Maybe 1 or 2.
Maybe 1 or 2. And thought, okay, I'm just going to try it. Put in a proposal, and shortly thereafter they said, okay, here's a date. Got some training and got a crew together, and off we went.
And this is dangerous to say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. The process was relatively simple if you're willing to put in the work to do it. There's not a whole lot of hurdles to it. That's one of the things that I think is good about
Well, I think the thing I think that's really great about Access is if you have a passion, if there's something you'd like to do, and you're going in and you want to learn about something, you can express that passion. You know, you can share your idea. You can show things that maybe haven't been seen much on TV. Part of the reason I wanted to be the host was because I was not looking like your standard Univision, Telemundo, blonde-haired, blue eyes, this large host, right? You know.
Yeah. One of the other things about you specifically and about your show is you're kind of like a cultural nexus for Pasadena. You're like where a lot of different avenues collide.
Yeah.
For instance, with the Latino heritage, it's not just Latinos that are part of your organization.
Right.
You have people from all different areas, all different parts of the community, all ethnicities represented, so on and so forth. And you bring out a lot of that in the shows that you produce. You've actually had some pretty high-profile people coming on your show. We saw Angel Baby, I forgot
Rosie
the name.
Hamlin.
Rosie,
Yes.
yeah, and Musica is clearly a part of it.
Right.
As Casa Martinez, Musica Más. So what are some of the other people that you've had come through?
Oh my goodness, we've had Herbert Sigüenza, we had Valente Rodriguez. They were just playing the show, which was a kick with Chris Franco. We've had Val Zavala, who continues to win Emmys with her work. We had Tony Plana, and we've had people that you wouldn't see otherwise on TV. That was another part that was important. You know, yes, there are the stellar names, but there are also these people that are doing really interesting things that you wouldn't know about otherwise. There was a couple that did a documentary on, what was it, Roots in the Sand, which was talking about Sikh families and Mexican Americans getting married up in the Coachella Valley because of anti-miscegenation laws. I mean, you can't do that on commercial television. On public access, you can bring on, you know, given some very, very few limitations, you can cover all sorts of things, and you don't have to worry about ratings.
Yeah, and you covered all sorts of things. you have covered quite the span of programs, and like I said, it's one of the things I appreciate about you and about your show. I think it's a pretty stellar example of using the facility the way it's intended. With your show, you've kind of touched on this, but is there some specific message you try to communicate with each one? Is there some overarching thing, or is it just having that conversation?
It's just having that conversation. It's just kind of highlighting things that might not get a chance to be highlighted otherwise. It's looking at whatever we may be sharing culturally or artistically or through heritage and history that we all share, because nobody, I think maybe the one thing is that no group, no individual lives in isolation.
Okay. We're going to come back and I want to talk a little bit, because your show is still going.
Yes, it is.
I want to talk about that, but before we do that, it's time for a break. We will come back in a few, and I have a few more questions for Roberto Martinez. We also have Eric Bailey coming up later in the show, so until then, take a look at this.
Sign up for Head Start, a free educational program for 3- and 4-year-olds located in Pasadena and throughout the San Gabriel Valley, serving low-income working and non-working families and those in training. Our Head Start features a program preparing for kindergarten success, well-trained and caring teachers, healthy meals and snacks, resources for parents, and additional support for children who are homeless, in foster care, or have a disability. Prepare your child for school success by giving them a head start. Learn more at optionsforlearning.org.
Watch What's Up Pasadena to hear local voices and learn about what makes our community unique. The Crown City has a lot to offer, and What's Up Pasadena is the show to tell you all about it. Tune in this month to the Arroyo Channel to catch the new show. Thanks for watching the Arroyo Channel, a public service of Pasadena Media. Pasadena Media provides a conduit for an exchange of ideas, freedom of speech, and truly local programming, unmitigated by commercial interests. Support community television by donating to Pasadena Media, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. please visit pasadenamedia.org for more information.
Thank you for staying with us. We are here with Roberta Martinez, producer of Casa Martinez, Música y Más, and let's get right back to it because we don't have a whole lot of time. You took a hiatus for a while there, and you're now back in production. I was watching the clip that we played earlier in our set. Actually, looks kind of similar. I think you're using the same table as your set. But going forward, because I can imagine, I'm sure there's plenty left to say, but why come back and do it? You've got 170 some odd, 80 some odd shows in the can?
Over 180. You know what? It's not me doing the talking, and that's one of those keys. That's what makes it exciting to keep doing it. It's all the stories that are out there. It's all the people that are out there and their experiences, because each of us has a different story to tell, and each of us has different experiences, and so it's an opportunity to learn.
What are some of the things that you think you have learned while doing your show? What experiences have you had that you might not otherwise have had?
Would have never thought about, as I was mentioning before, the Sikhs and the Mexican Americans in the Coachella Valley. And all of a sudden, some of the kids that I knew from elementary school, oh, well, maybe there's a connection there. Looking at the complexity of interactions that we have within a community, just musical forms. One of the last shows that we taped, we had a fellow who's a luthier who actually came on and showed how to make a requinto out of wood, step by step. I wouldn't have ever learned that,
I think that's probably one of the fun things about being the host is you don't have to do all of the talking. You just have to be curious. So I'm curious.
Yes, sir.
What is it that you think others are learning by watching your show? Because you're bringing these things to them. Do you think that it's something that people should be engaged in or care about?
Well, yeah, because we're all, as I was mentioning before, we're all a part of each other's worlds. And the more I know about your experiences, the more open I may be about who you are. The more you know about my experiences, the converse will also be true. And it just makes it easier for us to work together, to experience life together and have a good time.
So this is going to be one of my last questions, but there was a while when the internet was first booming, people were thinking that maybe community media, access media specifically, was not as relevant because you've got YouTube, you've got these other avenues, the Facebooks, the Twitters, all the social media that people can use to get messages out. Do you think that something like community access is still relevant when you have all of these other avenues that are supposed to be available to people?
Well, I think one of the things that's really good about indie work and about access work is that you have small communities that develop off of that. So your ideas, my ideas may not be the same, but bouncing off of each other, we end up with something else. We actually end up with at least 3 different ideas. Yours changes, mine changes, and there's this other thing that develops. And when you have people that are just working in isolation, you tend to have kind of bubbles that develop. And so folks that think like you and feel like you, it becomes the only message that you may hear. And so I think access is an opportunity for stretching out and to learn more about each other.
Okay. And for community building, have you seen just in some of your interactions where maybe something like that has happened through something like this? Because they've said the same thing about libraries as well, that maybe libraries are not even relevant.
Well, I think they evolve. I think things change. So what Pasadena Media is now was not what KPAS was when I started way back when. And projecting, 3 years, 4 years, 20 years to the future, I don't know what it's going to be, but people will be interacting with each other, and this is a great venue for doing that.
Okay. Is there anything that you could say to somebody who might be considering getting involved that might push them just that little extra step?
Mistakes are okay. If there were a place if there were a particular place where making mistakes would be a bit more okay, access would be one of them. Get out there and do it.
Okay. I believe that pretty much covers all of the bases. It's kind of hard to have this conversation with you because we've got 20 years worth of history.
We do.
So I do deeply appreciate you being here as a guest. I appreciate you as a person. Your show has educated me. I've met some tremendous people. I got to put makeup on Raul Rodriguez.
Yes.
And his parrot was sitting.
Yes.
And that was a pretty fun experience. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for the experiences. Thank you for the connections. Thank you for being one of my cultural nexuses here in Pasadena. If you would like to catch Casa Martinez Música y Más, it comes on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the Arroyo Channel. We have more to come with Eric Bailey right after these messages, so stick around.
Watch What's Up Pasadena to hear local voices and learn about what makes our community unique. The Crown City has a lot to offer, and What's Up Pasadena is the show to tell you all about it. Tune in this month to the Arroyo Channel to catch the new show.
Hi there, I'm Amaris, and I would like to introduce you to Remainders Creative Reuse. We're a nonprofit centered around creating art with recycled materials. We have classes for everything from sewing to sculpture, and once a month we host a huge recycled material sale. Remainders is for everyone, from toddlers to grandmas. My mom Robin is the founder, and we work together with many generous volunteers to provide a space of creativity, sustainability, and togetherness here in Pasadena. We invite you to join us and get creative. Visit us online at remainderspass.org.
Thank you for watching the Arroyo Channel, a public service of Pasadena Media. Pasadena Media is supported by the City of Pasadena and your generous donations. Thank you.
If you're interested in helping others create their TV shows, we definitely want you here with us at the Arroyo Channel. No experience required. We'll teach you everything you need to know to get started. With me now is one of our volunteers, Eric Bailey. How are you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Now I want to talk to you about volunteering at Pasadena Media. So first, tell me just a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Oakland.
Okay.
Moved down here to Pasadena in 2001. And around 2005, I saw an ad for Pasadena Media, how to operate TV and studio equipment. And I needed to fill my time up, so I answered the ad. And the first person I met around there, I believe, was Butch. He was one of the editors. Mm-hmm. And I took a class. You was actually my instructor.
I apologize.
Yeah. We started out with, I believe it was lighting, mm-hmm. Stage management, and technical director. And from there, I took it upon myself to work on various shows mm-hmm. as a stage manager.
So what are some of the shows you worked on? Well, starting back when you first started.
Starting back then, I believe I started with DeHaley. Mm-hmm. She had a live program at night, and I believe I done something with the Smile Lady. Mm-hmm. But the show that I really liked, it was a large production. It was produced by Yolanda Brown, mm-hmm. Every Way Woman. And working on that show, I really learned a lot. I mean, just watching her manage 30 people at any given time. So that's when I decided I like the bigger shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, this was at our previous studio. So you've been to two of the four studios that I've been to. And the station has changed a little bit over time. What are some of the things that keep you coming back? Because it's not the same place it was then.
Well, before it was more tight-knit. You just press two buttons and you can operate a whole studio. Mm-hmm. Now it's got more technical. We have more producers now, more volunteers, and you still have that family. Mm-hmm. You know, I kind of slowed down on working on a bunch of shows. There's only a few shows out there that I actually work on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. One is Sounds Within mm-hmm. with LV. The Dan Nowman show is mm-hmm. a good one. And I do sketch comedy whenever I get a chance.
Okay.
Well, I pretty much like to work with older producers mm-hmm. that's been around for a while.
And I've seen you actually helping with some of the instruction for some people.
Yeah.
You step in and fill some pretty big shoes.
Well, I trained a lot of volunteers over the years. Actually, I trained a few newer staff members, to get them up and running.
Okay. On how you want them to do it.
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. When you went through the training, did you have a specific area of interest, or you just?
Well, I was a stage manager for audio production. I used to manage big stage with bands and groups, so
you
that
came
came
into it
natural.
with some experience.
Yeah, that came natural, and I worked with K-Learns actually before I started volunteering with Pasadena Media. So I had a little experience operating cameras and doing other stuff, grip work.
So what would you say are some of the differences between those experiences and what you do here?
We go back on technology. Things got lighter, more faster, and better quality.
Okay.
But people are going to remain the same, regardless.
If you could give somebody some little advice on why they should get involved, what are some of the things you would think about?
Well, if you're a Pasadena, Altadena resident, I encourage anyone to get involved. This program is free. Anywhere else, you can spend thousands of dollars to learn how to operate camera equipment, editing, CGs, TriCasters.
So you're making my job easy. I don't have to say all of this stuff because you're pretty much saying it all.
Yeah.
And you've, like you said, you've been volunteering. So I guess you're pushing 10 years now as a volunteer?
I believe it is 10 years.
Okay. And you are actually moving into being a producer, or you've made the leap.
Well, I made the transition roughly 3 years ago. If you volunteer long enough, people will put in your head, when are you going to develop a show? So I took everything I learned in the last 10 years, the mistakes that other people made. I said, well, I'm going to avoid all that. So I came up with a title. It was called The How-To Show. It wasn't anything out there, tutorials on how to teach people how to operate audio equipment. That's where my strengths lies. So I did that for a year. Then I bumped into a coworker actually that had a podcast show. And I came to him and offered him to bring his podcast to television. So that's where I'm at now.
Okay. And so were you thinking about that at all when you first came in?
No. I just like behind the scenes. You know, I don't like being in front of the camera.
You still haven't been in front of the camera too much on your own show.
My first episode.
That was pretty much it.
That was the only one.
Okay. All right, and we're going to talk with you more about your show in another episode because as a producer, I want to get your opinions on that experience. It is a different side of the coin. But we are out of time. I want to thank you for being here, and that's all the time we have for this edition of Arroyo Profiles. I hope you found it informative and entertaining. If you're interested in learning more, you can find out through Pasadena Media's website and all of the usual social media platforms. For those of you who want to do more than like, follow, and subscribe, head over to our website and you can get involved. This program is actually staffed by volunteers and interns just like you. We offer training for everyone interested in learning about television production, whether you're interested in pushing the buttons or pushing your point of view. It all starts with an orientation and tour. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the Arroyo Channel.
Thank you.